So I'm down in Newport, South Wales, and I thought I'd show you something. If you're in Newport, you know about this, but if you're not, then it's just something mildly interesting. So this is Cardiff Road, and on the other side of the road is the Royal Gwent Hospital. It's a big old hospital, and this road presumably will go on its way to Cardiff, surprisingly enough. So it's not the road I'm interested in, it's this bit here, because you seem to have another road that runs down by other houses. And separating the two is a little bit of history, which I've been told about by someone who knows the area. You see this rather lovely, almost arts and crafts, Art Nouveau type sort of styling on here, which means that this will almost certainly date from the early 1900s, if not a little bit before. And this, in fact, actually apparently was where there was a railway that ran down this, what is now a road. Hard to believe, but you can check it out. But it's a rather nice, the ironwork in the main survives as a nice decorative feature. Presumably it had chains running along the tops. You can see where the hooks are. Had to move over quickly because someone was trying to run me down. I am on the road after all. So there you can see here is where they would have suspended chains on top of this lot. Quite why they needed extra chains is beyond me. This one looks like it's been quite nicely looked after, so they get run over again. The hazards of filming on the road. It's hit and miss. It's almost as though this pale green section are new bits, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were. Someone decided that they needed to be sort of put back in if they'd been pulled out. But every so often you get little features which are quite interesting here. I assume that's where there was probably a post. So it's either something to do with the railway or it was a lamppost that went in that place there. I'm now absolutely paranoid about getting run over, so I better just cross over the road where I'm safer. So yeah, this runs along for quite a long time actually, over in the far distance where the road forks off to the right. So there's the hospital there. So yes, this would have been presumably a light railway that was to do with the industry in the area and down to the docks, I believe. Because in the far distance there was a big steelworks. There was quite a few steelworks in the area. All have gone, to my knowledge. So here we have a bit where there's a break coming up and some steps to cross the road. So it's interesting to see where there are a number of these pale green sections, which I can only assume were repaired sections or refurbished sections. Very interesting bit here. Presumably, so when people crossed the road, across the rail tracks, then there was a bit where they could take safety. There's also a bit here. See these little prongs here, that was presumably to stop people from sitting on it, resting. But on the sides, you can see the maker's name, which says Makers Newport. I don't know what the actual name was. Let's have a look and see if I can see here. Yeah, Bakers Newport. So they were being made by a local steel fabricator or iron fabricator. But as you go along, as the height increases, you get a bit of a raised section. So the houses along here, you see Corti Bella, another interesting name. The houses along here are actually, they're nice. These are what I would consider at the time in the late 1800s, early 1900s to be quite decent lower middle class housing. This is quite nice, you know. But the idea that there was a railway running along the front of where your house is, as well as a busy road, is quite something. I've got to go around the outside of these parked cars now. We're digging up the road. You can see how some bits have fared worse than others. There's quite a noticeable increase in the road height over what would have been a rail track bed here. It really goes up. Presumably because the railway was going to cross over. And in fact, if I'm right, I think there is evidence of tracks. See where that tree's grown. That wouldn't have been there when it was first built. But it's good to see that at some point or other there has been some effort to restore or replace sections which have been damaged. The odd thing is that the colour they've decided to paint it, which maybe they considered that was the original colour, and they were just being very true to form. Now, if I find any extra information about this with a good website link, I'll put it in. Actually, here's quite an interesting bit. Let's just go to a different lens. Here, I showed you before what I thought was a lamppost. It's a telegraph pole. So that's the evidence of an old telegraph pole, which fits perfectly. So that's what that would have been. Telegraph pole. Right. So we're getting towards the end of this rather lengthy section. I'm just going to stop it a second. So just picking up, and this is the end here, or at least the end before another sort of more modern section goes in. So we come round here, curved all the way around. It's quite a steep curve actually. If that was a railway, I have the feeling it probably wasn't curved and it ran across the road. So I think where it was running across to was over here, which is where the steelworks was. You can see there's a bit of a gap, so it would seem quite likely that that's where it ran to. So yeah, so it would have run along here, and I have a feeling it would have just then literally crossed over to the other side of the road, because there is the main line railway is down that end. So it was obviously to do with transporting stuff from probably Newport docks in the centre of town, or just to and fro the steelworks to the docks, transporting maybe raw materials or finished goods, whatever. Interesting. Just on the other side of the road, I'm in South Wales, and there is Richard Burton. Well, Richard Burton and Matthew Rhys playing the part of Richard Burton. How about that? So I'm now on, I forget what the name of this road is, but on the other side of the road, let's try and make that a wider angle, there was a steelworks, and I say was, I think it had closed down probably the better part of 30, 35, 40 years ago. I mean, it's sat empty for many, many years. It's only within the last, I would say, possibly 5 to 10 years that, in fact, actually they've been building on it. And as you can see, there's new houses there. I'm trying to remember what the name of the company was. So I'm actually on, I can try and pronounce this badly, Cardiff Road, Bellevue Terrace. Beautiful view. Not quite sure what the beautiful view was. Obviously a long time ago. So yes, the steelworks has been replaced by some rather characterless sort of Legoland houses. I don't mean to be cruel, but I can't be kind. So there you go. That was just a little feature about a funny little quirky bit of Newport that I've often walked alongside, and I thought I'd just document it in a sort of half-assed way. But I will try and put a link on there. So thanks for watching.